with my two favorite cohorts, Dieter Stoudinger, our ace first officer, ace wingman, and chief technical officer, and Eric Larson down there, newly retired, freshly retired. Yeah, how can we? I guess that's a thing. So anyway, we just want to welcome anybody who might be showing up for the first time. We usually have our standbys out there that we don't want to overlook, Jim and Michelle, and I'm just taking a guess that one of them will be on by the time we end. Anyway, and we want to first of all recommend that you join our Fearless Flight Birds of a Feather, our Facebook group, and this is a place for you to go if you are a fearful flyer and you need some support, either from us on the staff or from your fellow fearful flyers out there. And we have a new milestone. If we had a drum roll, we would do it right here.
Yeah.
And I'll let Dieter announce it because he's been a big part of getting me onto Facebook, or active, I should say, in Facebook. So anyway.
We just reached a milestone. We just, thanks to you, our Birds of a Feather Facebook group is now I think it's actually 602 actually as of right now. We have 602 members in there, and you know, it really lives and grows through your participation. So please don't be shy. If you just joined recently, introduce yourself, maybe let us know, let the group know what your plans are for traveling, what is your, you know, what makes you anxious about flying, and if you have any pictures or other things to contribute. There's a lot going on. So thank you again for being part of this flock, Birds of a Feather. And yeah, Ron, that's pretty amazing.
If there was anything we could steal from the COVID-19 virus, it would be the expansion. So I don't want to connect the two, but we hope that we can kind of sneak in there and keep growing and growing and growing. So, okay. So tonight we're going to draw for the survey. We're going to present the survey results, and we offered that we were going to draw someone who participated in. We had over 300, I think, at the latest count. A tremendous response to asking when you were going to fly again, and I think you'll find the results interesting. So we'll move on. So number 2, we're going to draw for that. Number 3, we're going to talk about the 201 that's in progress. You can still join. We'll tell you how to do that. We're going to talk about the highlights from last week and what's coming up next week. And then we've got a couple of stories in the news related to flying and the COVID-19 thing there. So, okay. So do you want to do the drawing there, Dieter?
Yeah, well, actually, why don't we go through the results, and you can walk them through, and I can do the draw in the background, and when I have the lucky winner, then I will announce it.
And we're doing this scientifically. This isn't Dieter throwing a dart at a list. It's doing an electronic one. We have a program here that does just these things. It will randomize and give us a random solution to this. So anyway, okay.
I'm just gonna share the results so you can go through that. And there we go.
Okay, it's coming up. 1 second. 1001, 1002.
Yeah.
There it is. Okay. So the first question we asked was, when do you see yourself flying again? And you can see the answers there. You can see between now and the end of the year, not so many. And then they grow towards the middle. And then by the time we get to by next year, pretty much 80% of you, and actually if you look at other, you got another 10%. So over 90% of you are looking to fly in a year, within a year or so, okay? And even the people who wrote other down there, their qualifications were mainly based on the COVID virus there. So what that tells me, it reminds me somewhat of 9/11. When I did my first class after that, I had nearly 100 people in the month following the 9/11. Actually, we were set to do a class the night of 9/11, and we couldn't get to the airport, of course, because they closed it and cordoned it off and everything. But when people came back the next month when we did that, I was anticipating people being really hung up about terrorism and all that. And I was surprised because after we talked about 15 minutes about the fact, everybody got it. They realized that this was not your run-of-the-mill fearful flyer thing. Okay. And so we talked about the normal things that we do. I'm seeing similar things. Obviously there are some differences here with the COVID-19 threat, in that it's real. It's still in the imaginary phase, unlike the terrorism thing where we could immediately start looking at things that we can combat, some defensive measures. And whereas the COVID-19, we're still on the upswing. So we got to wait on that, but it will pass. And I got an article, a couple articles that I found here that I think you'll find relevant to this as to when we travel there. So there you have it. A lot of optimism, and that's particularly refreshing to us because that's what we're trying to do, is help you get over whatever it is that's keeping you from flying. So we're going to get back out there and we're going to get into the air. And can you give me the next slide there, Dieter? I think we
sure.
We have two. See, let me
so the next slide is actually just the word cloud that I extracted when we analyzed the results, and the larger the word, the more often it was used in the optional field where people could
what do they call it? What do they call us? A word? What do they call us?
Word cloud.
Word cloud. So make sure I got it right. So the way Dieter explained it to me was this: when you look at an answer where there are a lot of random answers, it sees patterns in that. And if the more it shows up, the bigger the letters. It spits out this word salad all by itself. So it's kind of cool, kind of clever, and makes us feel like we know more than we do, maybe.
But this one is the really interesting word cloud. So this one,
I looked through this. 300 responses, or over 300 responses, and people want to go everywhere. So it's really exciting to us. It doesn't, you're not. Yeah, we did have a couple of people that just want to go across the street basically for their first flight, but that's okay. But we have people want to go Hawaii, always a big destination, Florida, sunshine, different places. Las Vegas is popular, and then even across the pond, we had several people who were interested in that. So it's really reassuring to us, and we're going to hang in there and do our job to keep you moving forward on this. And then the next one, we always like to look at the split between genders here. And you can see this is typical from going back 32 years since I started doing this. It's about 2 to 1, or actually 3 to 1 to females to males. And I used to think it was just because guys got a bigger ego and they don't want to surrender it. That's not so true anymore, I found out. It does have to do with the wiring in males versus females. So that may account for that. And women tend to be more, this doesn't mean hysterical. When I say more emotional, they have greater access to their emotions in some regards than men do. So that's it. And then here's the last one here is age responses. Again, very similar. You can see 35 to about really getting up to 64. We've got, let's see, 35, 64. What is that? 30, 40, 50, 67. About 75% of the people are in that age group, 35 to 64. And that's consistent with, you can see the 25 to 34, where the first really noticeable group. And what happens is people typically wait 10 years. It happens early in adulthood for many, many people, but it doesn't show up, or at least they don't identify and go seek help for about 10 years on average. The average person in the surveys that I've done, that people wait 10 years on that. So, okay, so there it is for what it's worth. I just ask you, Eric, have you seen things like that before? Have we talked about that much, or what do you notice about that?
What's the question?
Hey, there wasn't a question really. That was a dump off on you just to get your. I was just saying, does that surprise you, or is that you've been doing this for a while with me, but I don't know if you.
That all seems about normal. I was a little surprised with the I would say that with the 2/3 responses from women, 1/3 from men, that's not necessarily true of the physical presence when we have classes.
Yeah,
that
I think
is
it's
true.
almost closer to 50-50. The women
that's true.
responding to these poll questions, but when we have a web class or a live class, I would call it much closer to 50-50.
Who shows up? Yeah.
With the makeup. And it always cracked me up. I would always love to have it as a quiz. Open one of the classroom doors and have somebody look in there and go, guess what all these people are here for? And the age, gender, racial makeup is so widely varied. I don't think anybody could look at a classroom and figure out what's up with those guys. They would have no clue.
Yeah. So
okay,
there was.
You want to announce a winner?
Yeah, actually, there's two winners because instead of picking one, somehow picked two. So
okay,
there we go. I can only say the first names, and we have your email addresses, so we will contact you personally. But Nicole and Christina.
cool.
So if you're on the show, your name is Nicole, and you actually entered the poll or the survey, or Christina, maybe you can just put in the chat, yay, that's me. Otherwise, we will contact you, and you'll get access to the remaining 2 live
Yeah, let me say, I always wanted to say this like a game show. And what do they win, Johnny?
So what do they win? You will have access to the remaining 2 live sessions in our Clit for Takeoff 201 online masterclass. And that's happening this coming Sunday and the following Sunday. And obviously, you're also going to have access to the replay of the class we just did, which was Basics of Flight, and the module 1, 2, was that almost 2 weeks ago, which was basically the introduction and the psychology behind anxiety and fear. So congratulations, and we will be in touch with you. And
So you get the whole enchilada. So thanks to everybody for participating in the survey. We really appreciate that. Okay.
If you'd been throwing a dart, Dieter, instead of this stupid electronic technological thing, there would have only been one winner.
Yeah, good point. Okay, so we want to keep with the theme tonight about flying and when you next fly. And so there were a couple of articles that I thought were particularly relevant. The first one was it's dated May 6th, so it's about what is today, the 12th? Yeah, so it's 6 days old. But I'll show you why in a minute why I thought that was relevant. And the headline on it is why empty planes keep flying through the pandemic. And it talks about as coronavirus shuts down travel flights carrying a handful of passengers. Okay, the next one you're going to see that might not be telling the whole truth here, because this is initially when the airlines were continuing to fly, and we saw this in 9/11 again. We quit flying completely for 4 days after 9/11. And then the airlines pretty much they put full schedules into service, but we couldn't stop on a dime because, that's not the way the airlines work. So what we were seeing in the early part of the pandemic here was the airlines still having a lot of empty space on that, although they've cut back much more rapidly than we did in 9/11, I think. But now, so this would lead you to believe that when you get on the airplane, that it's going to be, you're going to have a lot of space between you. Well, turns out that isn't exactly what's happening, okay? And this next slide is a story by a reporter who actually flew, whoops, let me get back to this.
I love the guy's mask in this picture.
Yeah.
That's like heavy duty.
I saw that the photo is credited to Getty, so I'm sure it was a what do you call it? A royalty photo there. So this wasn't the actual guy there, but it certainly tells the theme that he did. And what he talks about was his expectations. So he says, the surreal experience of flying during a pandemic and the false promise of a return to normal. Well, there's a lot in that, and this reminds me of a lot of articles when that we see in Fear Flying. They come out, they have a headline out there that's that's designed to capture your attention, not unlike the way your brain gets hijacked when you have anxiety disorder. Okay. And so he has some of the words he used there. Says the cabin was restless. What? How can you have a restless cabin? I don't know. Maybe and that's one of the risks. We all, we project our own anxiety out into the world there. It says it was a weekday afternoon in late April. He was among dozens of people boarding the airplane, and most of them had assumed we'd be empty. So that was a disappointment to a lot of them. Flight attendants were scrambling to accommodate, and I think even that's only just over 2 weeks away in the past there. That was before the airlines had gotten their stuff together and they changed the boarding so that they're going to put middle seats in there. And he didn't expect the flight to be full. First of all, Dieter, we could tell that's got to be more like a 787 there with the big windows and stuff like that. And he didn't pick a good flight there. I'm being critical though, because he's got too many people sitting in the seats there for one thing. So, okay. And he says, travelers stuffed shoulder to shoulder in 2-seat rows, grumbled at one another from masks. An ominous announcement from the flight attendants over the PA says, we apologize for the alarming amount of passengers on this flight. Each of us was a potential vector of deadly disease. And previous theories concerns okay. Oh, and so one of the things that I wanted to talk over with you and to get Eric's take on this is, we've talked about this in the past, how way back in the late 70s, when we started the new high bypass engines, the modern jets that we have out here, where we built bigger engines, they weighed less but produced more thrust. Well, one of the ways that they became more fuel efficient was recirculating the air in the air conditioning system, not unlike what the recirculating position on your car is. And on a car, you can recirculate the air, which takes 80% of the air in the passenger part of the car and runs up through the air conditioner, particularly when it's hot, like in Arizona, so it doesn't have to cool 100% of the air to get it down to a comfortable level until you get it cooled down a little bit. And you hit the recirc button on your car, and you can hear the noise more because it's recirculating that air inside there. Airplanes are the same way, and they operate like that all the time. So ever since that time, flight attendants in particular, some of them have been convinced that they're rebreathing infectious air from passengers out there. Okay, and they've done study after study. They've checked the filters. There's never been any documentation to support that. Okay, and in fact, I'll skip that part for the time being. So now enter you trying to get on board the airplane before we really have a preventative way to protect ourselves from the COVID-19 virus. And now that's going to probably race around your head up there, is like, what's the deal? How can I protect myself? But think about it. The number one defense you have on the airplane is the same defense you have right now. And that is to wear a mask, which is being required by the airlines now, to keep as much distance as you can. But the most important thing, and I mentioned last week, I listened to a respiratory specialist talk about when he wears a mask outside in public, the main benefit that he uses is it reminds him not to touch his face, because that's where you're most likely to get it. And think about it, when you're taking cups from flight attendants, and so I go back to the days when the flight attendants were I'll say mildly paranoid about the fact that they were getting this ill from the recirculated air. Probably it was the same problem that we're trying to protect ourselves from with the COVID-19 virus, and that is touch. So what do you want to do? Make sure you don't touch your face on the airplane, and to me, that would be the most cumbersome thing. But if you bring wipes and you bring a towel or something, that's what I would do. I know I catch myself touching my face all the time. So I think that's the meat out of this that I would say. So if you do end up flying, and I'm curious, we might just throw it out to people. Is anybody out there going to fly in the next 30 days? Just out of curiosity.
Rob, can I jump in on these filters for a second?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, the other thing I wanted to bring up, I was calling some of my buddies at other airlines and so on and so forth. thinking about that and looking in some of my old aircraft manuals, and even though we or the aircraft are recirculating this air, it's still changing the whole cabin air out in 3 or 4 minutes. It's 100% fresh air by that time. So in that respect, you're probably way better off than an air-conditioned building inside anywhere, because you're getting fresh air volume in that point of time, even though it's recirculated air. And what I saw and heard from my buddies with their company memos out, stating that these filters on the newer gen airplanes are hospital grade filters and they're supposed to catch it. I gotta believe that the companies have seen information that lead them to believe that to be correct and would not knowingly disseminate incorrect information, because of the pilots and flight attendants of the public caught them at it later, they'd string them up. But those new filters are supposed to be hospital grade and catch that, the HEPA filters that we're talking about. And with all this, with all these airplanes parked, the first ones in the desert and the other places are older gen airplanes, and the airplanes still flying are very new, newer gen airplanes. So I think if you need to be flying and you follow Ron's recommendations, as we used to say when we were having fun in the simulator, well, we're in pretty good shape for the shape we're in.
Yeah, and so I think the main thing is just to continue to follow the best practices for social distancing, and not touching your face when your hands might be contaminated, for that matter. So, okay, we want to just speak just a little bit about the last module that we did with people. We're going to have a guest on. We had one tonight, but unfortunately, he's an airline employee, and they had mandatory training, and you can't miss that. So it came up at the last minute, and it is related to the COVID-19. So we lost him just an hour or so ago.
And I just want to throw this up before you get going. Susan, yes, absolutely, you can still join, because you'll have access, just like the two winners, to the replays. And there is, Sunday we went 2 hours, I think, and it was really, packed with great content from Eric and Ron. And then the week before, so those are replays that are already available. And then I will put the link also in the.
And we're throwing out a bunch of bonuses for this. We've got meditations that we're creating, and so you're going to get all those as well. You're going to get all the stuff that we've sent out, plus the replays, plus the bonuses. And as Dieter mentioned, we talked about the psychology of fear flying the first week, and last week was everything about airplanes, all things airplane. And in the thing I want to mention to you, the primary thing that I mentioned, the reason that aviation is so safe since the Wright brothers started, there's three main reasons. One is engines and technology. It's just, they're like the Energizer Bunny. They keep working and working and working. The second thing is air traffic control, the modernization and the ability to track airplanes and know where everybody's at all the time, including on the ground now. And the last thing is the study of human factors. The one area that was still the largest cause of accidents, even though the overall number of accidents that we have in the aviation industry is safer than anywhere else on the planet to travel, when we had problems, it was related to humans. And so last week we talked about a couple of those accidents related to that. So this next week coming up, it's going to be, I think, going to be the best week yet, because we're going to talk about the coping tools and strategies that you need, and we're going to actually give you a chance to practice that. And we have a mock flight, and Eric and I do some fun things in that, and so I think you'll really enjoy it. And we'd love to have you. So if you still want to join, there's still time. It's at rock bottom price compared to what we did when we did it locally. It's only 25% of what we normally charge at $97, and we'd like to have it. So come and join us. All the bonuses that you've missed so far, you'll get that, plus the replays there. So come on out and join us on Sunday. Hey, what else would you rather do on a Sunday afternoon for a couple hours? So, okay. All right. Anything? One of the things that for us, this whole virus thing has kind of got us off our duffs and pushed us into this, like the rest of the world, into the online streaming thing. And so one of the things that you're going to see us change, and we lamented this for years, it's great to have a free class at the Phoenix airport and the opportunity to get on the airplane. We are now going to transition. We are going to start on the first Saturday and every first Saturday of every month in the foreseeable future. We're going to start our 101 class, which is our free class. It's going to be online now, and you're going to have a chance to participate in that. I think the first Saturday in June is June 6th, and that's good because I'll still be 72. The next day, not so much.
Not so much.
So I won't have to pick up with that harassment. So we're gonna start doing that, and we're gonna have more 201 classes down the road. We're taking a look at how we're gonna what few modifications we're gonna have from the one we're doing right now. But we hope so. Yeah, and you can come like the rest of the people that can live in Phoenix here or be in Phoenix. You can come as many times as you want to the 101 class. Okay. Yeah. And we talk about the introduction, things to know. So some people have been successful just taking that class and flying. And then if you eventually, when they let us back into the airport and onto an empty airplane, if they ever do, we're going to resume our opportunities to have just the airplane portion of that class. So we're splitting them up to a classroom portion, which is going to be online now. And we'll probably do that forever. And then when we go to the airport, if we get back there, if you happen to be in Phoenix, and we're hoping if we get enough people all over the world, this is our first opportunity to do what we also have wanted to do. And that is maybe have classes at other airports around the country. So keep your fingers crossed. Tell all your friends and neighbors about.
I can already hear some people in the audience scream Boston.
yeah, that's got to be Susan. Yeah. And Boston is probably going to be the first place there. Boston and Atlanta, because Mary's always lobbying for Atlanta too. So, but we're really looking forward to that. That's way outside of our comfort zone right now. But it won't be that hard if we get a bunch of people in. The chair recognizes Eric.
We're feeling out how to draw you in while we're webcasting, and we'll get better and better at it, and still welcome your participation. But you have 3 big advantages for the same price. You can eat and drink whatever you want, whenever you want. 2,
come however you want.
You don't have to raise your hand to go to the bathroom. 3, if you don't want to wear pants, you don't have to do that either. And you can still participate in the class, and it'll work out just as well as if we were in the brick and mortar classroom.
Yeah. It's a great way to learn, and with Zoom and the ability to put you in small groups. Mm-hmm. It really works well. So
we have had a lot of great feedback. About the facilitation, and so obviously we're learning how to even be more engaging, because the last thing we want to do is just dump knowledge, but we really want to make this as engaging and meaningful as a time for you as possible. So,
and remember, anxiety due to flying is a process. It's not a thing. So you're not going to get a pill. You're not going to get a one-shot deal that's going to get you over it. You may make some huge breakthroughs in a short period of time, but it's a process. And so you need to stay engaged to keep going, particularly if you're not flying regularly like Eric and I did when we were working, or even Dieter, as traveling more often. You need to stay in there and stay in the hunt and work on those things. And that's the real beauty of online streaming with what we've learned and what's possible out of this. So any other words of wisdom from Eric?
Just a couple of comments here. So first of all, that'll make your heart warm, Ron. You don't look a day over 71.
That does make my heart go pitter patter. I'm telling you. Hey, but speaking of that though, we had a Zoom meeting, a reunion of my pilot training class. 50 years ago, just about 20 miles to the east here, I was terrorizing the skies of Arizona as a rookie pilot, getting my license, or getting my wings in the Air Force. And so we're all 50 years older than we were then. And I have to say me and another one of my good friends, we seem to be dodging the super wrinkly or whatever face, but I would never have recognized a lot of my classmates without the names up on the screen there. So, okay, enough said. So,
And by the way, one person said that they're going to fly in July. So
cool.
just outside
Okay.
of 30 days, but so.
Okay, very good. Yeah, so stay with us, and we'll be right there with you and help you make it happen. So, thanks, Eric. Thanks, Dieter, and thanks to all of you for joining us again for Fearless Flight Live. We'll see you again next week. Keep coming back. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.